Hi, Life Group leaders. I'm excited today to be with Mark and Kim Akers, and we're going to be looking at the second lesson in the Song of Solomon. And it's an interesting passage, and we're just going to jump in and have a good time. I hope it helps you as you prepare for this coming Sunday.
Well, thanks for letting us do this.
You're welcome.
We're not excited about it, but we're willing to do it.
There you go.
I think it's, one of the big ways that Satan attacks the church today is through the marriage.
Right.
I mean, that's huge. I think, I don't know the statistics. I've heard it in the 50% of Christian marriages end in divorce, and I think that it's important that we from time to time go back and look and see what God's Word has to say about marriage. It's in there for a reason.
That's right.
Right? And,
That's right.
And I think sometimes we can go and not realize can go, a couple, 3 years without, coming across a study on it or a sermon on it, because you can't cover everything. There's a thousand different
That's
deals.
right.
And so I did some research, and the main causes of divorce, and they put it in this category called like incompatible, but really what it meant was the number one was infidelity, sexual issues in the marriage, right? I can believe that, the second one was money, arguing over money. Remember when we had no money?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'd balance our checkbook and we have a nickel left.
Yeah.
You remember that?
When we were in seminary, we had a goal that we couldn't get below $3 in our checking account.
There you go.
We were dangerously close from time
Oh,
to
yeah.
time. Yeah.
And the third one, emotional and physical abuse.
Yeah.
That one kind of took me back.
Yeah.
But if they did horse whippings in public, that would stop.
There you go.
Yeah. And then,
To the guys.
yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Let me clarify that.
There you go.
And then the fourth one, and I can see this, is parenting issues. Because I know early on, the way I was raised was completely different than the way she was raised in her home. And so when we had kids, Wes and Callie, we would get back to our bed at night and she'd say, "I think you handled that wrong."
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I did not."
Yeah.
And then after a while of studying on it, I'm like, "Yeah, you're right, I handled that wrong." So I had to go fix it, right? And so a lot of people, how they handle their children, I mean, the way we did it or the way you raised yours, it's not you're right or wrong. It's just kids are different, right?
That's right.
And so what I like to do in our life group is I like to ask questions. I like if you ask people questions, sometimes they're silly, sometimes they're fun, it gets people talking. So when we get into the meat of the lesson, they're more open to answering a question or, not sitting there looking at the computer screen on Zoom going, like that.
I
But
agree.
so let me ask you, Tom.
Okay.
You're my guinea pig on this. What
Thanks.
attracted you to your wife?
We're going on 48 years this November. We dated for 5 years. I can't tell you that was a spiritual thing. I can tell you that there was some emotional, but I got to be honest, there was a lot of physical. I saw her walk across the gym floor, and Mark, she had hair down to her rear end and legs up to her ears, and I had never seen a girl like that in all my life. And I thought there might be a shot for me because she was walking out of the gym with an ugly dude. So I thought, maybe. And then
At least she was sympathetic.
Yeah, and I'll never forget the first time I called her. I called her to see if she'd let me sit with her at a basketball game. And I was we had party line back in those days.
Oh, yeah.
remember?
Oh, yeah. I know. Yeah.
My sister was on the other line, coaxing me, say this, say that, and sweat was dripping off my hands. And we went to the ball game, sat together, then we had us a little date, and just talked and talked. So the physical, the emotional, and then as we got to know each other, her spiritual maturity. It was just incredible. I've always needed the spiritual aspect of Paula, and that's kind of how God put us together.
Yeah. I'd ask you, but it'd be kind of like weird. But I'll tell you mine. So
I can tell you. I thought you were very good looking, and you had a really nice car too at the time.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Kim, she, at the time, it was like every time I saw her out somewhere, she had a smile on her. She was always smiling.
Yeah.
And so that's what initially attracted me to want to get to know her. And so, and then another question is, when you look at your spouse now, what makes you smile?
For me,
You said 48 years, right?
yeah.
And so when you
Paula's
look,
character and her integrity, it's just she's always been the rock for us. I've always said I think Paula was God constructed her to be a mother, now grandmother, and I just look at her in awe of the stability in the character, the integrity. She doesn't let me cut corners, and my nature is to cut corners to try to get things done.
sure.
And Paula didn't let me do that, and I'm so blessed by that.
Okay. I think for me now is still she always smiled. And I had to say that in our marriage, we've been married 32 years.
Wow.
And I would say that it's a God thing and it's a Kim thing, because I was not early on the first 6-7 years of our marriage. I'm surprised that she
Yeah.
let me stay. I think
Yeah.
she prayed our marriage to the point that God says, okay.
What's made it work, Kim?
Well, he's very strong. He's a provider. He takes care of our family. The spiritual leadership, making sure we always brought the kids to church and supported me in the decisions that I would make with the kids. And
good.
he expected the kids to treat me with respect. He showed them how to treat me with respect because he respected me in
That's good.
emotional and physical ways.
Good.
And then the last one is you can say if you want, but do you know your spouse's love language?
Yes.
Oh, I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know too.
Yeah.
And so I think these are questions that are kind of going to lead into this lesson. Like, and some of these are applicable in the sections that we're talking about. But we're in Song of Psalms, it's chapter 5, and our text is 6 through 16, and we'll read a couple of the verses. But basically, if I understand it right, and you can correct me, this is a poem about a young married couple.
Right.
Learning to have a relationship. They're starting out,
Yes.
right?
I agree.
And so they're learning how to live as one. And so Solomon in this book, he talks a lot about sexual intimacy, and that's really important because the number one was infidelity and sex issues. We talk about the cause of divorce, but
Yeah.
the truth about the sexual intimacy is a gift from God. Now, we could talk about the sexual intimacy, being with my wife. That's a gift from God. But I got to tell you, putting the two together in the same room makes me nervous,
Yeah.
right? It's like,
Yep.
okay, God, I know you blessed me with this, but please look the other way for a few minutes. I can't put the two
Hey,
together.
let me tell you how bad this is. We were in a marriage conference one time, and the guy that was leading one of the sections said it wouldn't be a bad idea to have prayer before you have intimacy. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me.
No, it's over for me.
Yeah. me too.
It would be like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the ultimate goal is not the sexual expression itself,
That's right.
right? I think it's the ultimate goal is to build a strong, lasting, healthy relationship that brings honor and glory to God.
Right.
And so you got to look at that. Is Satan's attacking our marriage, but our marriages in our church. So who benefits when our marriages do bring glory to God, right?
Right.
The husband and wife do,
That's right.
right? The
kids.
children do. Yeah,
The
the kids.
kids.
Yeah, they see how how boy sees how his dad treats his mother,
That's right.
and he's going to know how to treat a young lady when he gets older.
That's right.
And I
And
think
then the
that's huge.
children see how the mother treats their dad,
Right.
and that's how little girls learn to be godly wives.
That's exactly right, Kim.
And then I think it also benefits the church and the society as a whole.
That's right.
Kim was a school teacher for a long time, almost 30 years, and not absolute, but kind of in general, kids that came from single parent, not that they can help it, but it's
Right.
just a life reality. They tend to struggle with behavior
That's right.
a little bit more if there's a dad not in the home.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's important, and so I think God's desire is that we do have a strong marriage relationship. I mean that's key. I think it's key to the growth in the church.
That's right.
I think it's key to growth in spreading the gospel. I think it's a big part of it. And so in Song of Psalms chapter 5 verse 6, let me
Are you going to start?
yeah, let me explain the
Okay.
scenario
Okay.
here, and if I understand this right. I'm guessing that this young husband and wife got into an argument or a tiff, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
And she's in a room and got the door closed, and he knocks on the door,
Right.
and she takes too long to go open it, and he's like, "Well, I'll show her," and she's thinking, "Well, I'll show him," and then eventually she comes to her senses and she goes and opens the door, and he's not there,
Not there. That's right.
not there. So, Kim, what?
Okay. Well, when I was reading this, what I got from it was, the wife is expecting her husband to be there or her spouse, to be there, and when he's not, she is, it says, "My heart sank at his departure." So she
Right.
is very sad and empty because he's gone, and lonely. So what it's telling me is I should not take Mark for granted. As spouses, just don't assume they're going to be there. If I'm emotionally being withdrawn or physically being withdrawn, I need to tell him why if there's something going on, not not assume he knows why I don't want to talk or be with him, and also to live in the moment with our spouses. Sometimes, especially now with technology, people are following everybody else, seeing what everybody else is doing in their marriage or with their kids, instead of being together and
right.
enjoying
That's good, Kim.
each other. We need to be there for each other. Our relationship is what I need to be taking serious and not worried about everybody else and what they're doing.
You said something profound. You said in the moment. Living
Yes,
in the
live
moment.
in the moment.
That's a big thing, Kim.
And it's not only with Mark, but with our kids.
Sure.
Not always. I can't wait till the next age or the next step in life, but to enjoy what God has given us right now.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
Yeah, and just to add on to a little bit of that, I think men and women both, men try to act tough, but men and women both have emotional needs, right? And I think that if they're not getting it at home, they're going to go look somewhere to get it.
That's right.
And I think that is a problem. And I think we have to stay in tuned. Like she says, I need to tell Mark if I have a need or emotional need. Well, me as her husband, after 30, I know her, right? I know I can look at her or how she answers a question is like, okay, something's wrong,
That's right.
And I think that's part of growing in a marriage that as a young married couple, you may not know that, but after a few years, you know if you've crossed the line or you've done something wrong or somebody has done something that she just needs a hug.
Needs
You
to be a lot more deposits and withdrawals. There'll always be withdrawals at times in the relationship, but you got to have a lot more chips in the pot, a lot more pennies in the bank for
Right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then in verse 7,
You mean-
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, verse 7, because of that miscommunication that happened in verse 6, I feel like it led to conflict. I mean, she
Right.
was eventually abused, and of course, no abuse is acceptable.
That's right.
But, for Mark and I, if there's miscommunication, it can lead to an argument, a disagreement, in fact, when Wesley and Tyler moved off to Fort Worth for seminary, we were both sad. But instead of telling each other, "Hey, I'm sad," we would take it out on each other
Yeah.
because we are, it was, and so we eventually, after 2 or 3 times of arguing after they were gone, we came up with code words. Okay,
wow.
this is what's going on. So next time if I say, Big Mac or, whatever, I just need you to be my friend.
That's really good.
And so
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is if you read in verse 7 now, as a young woman in this culture, if she went out at night, she was either a criminal or a prostitute.
Right.
And you can see there in verse 7, they beat and wounded her. There's no telling what they did to her. So this is a situation that probably from a simple argument, miscommunication, has turned bad in a hurry.
Yeah.
Right? And so she knew the risks of going out there. And she was willing to take that risk. And so I think the question here is, how far would you go to save your marriage? she knew there was a risk of going out there and bad things could happen to her, but she was willing to go do it to search for her husband.
It's a good application.
And so, you know, how far would you go? Sometimes Kim just talked about it. We tend to lash out at the people we love and that we care about. You know, I guess because we feel like we get away with it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes people just have a bad day, right? Or they need a hug, or they have a joke that just kind of went south. You know, was taken the wrong way, or just plain, like she said, miscommunication. So, what's the verse? It's in
I
Peter,
look
right?
at 1 Peter 4:8. Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins.
Amen.
Yeah.
You know, and I
Amen.
think that, yeah, when you were talking about that, kind of pride came to mind too. Sometimes we're just too prideful
Yeah.
to admit when we.
Not me.
Could be insecurity. We get defensive.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in verse 8.
Okay, and what I got out of verse 8, it's, and I went back and looked, it's 6 times the woman refers to her husband as her love. And so her love is her centerpiece. Everything is built around him, you know, and then it goes on, and I was thinking about it said that, tell him I am faint with love. So she is so lonely that she's sick. You know, that just goes back to what I was saying in the first verse, that we need to be present for each other, and we have to work on it every day, which led me to think about maybe with your small groups you could come up with things that you work on as a couple together or whatever, like your marriage. Mark and I, we grow a garden every year, and it's hard work.
Yeah.
It's hard work. You know, you plant, then you water, then you fertilize, you got to keep the weeds out, and you have to make a choice to do that every day, otherwise you won't get any vegetables.
That's right.
And it's like our marriage. You know, we have to make a decision. Yes, this is hard. Yes, we need to go pull some weeds. We need to
That's
make sure we're going to church together and we're feeding it what it needs to be fed, not what the world wants us to be feeding it, but what God tells us.
That's good.
And that, you know, it's
From
hard.
what I see here, originally I thought, you know, it sounds like a 7th grader when you pass it a note, hey, go tell so-and-so I really like her, you know, but she really has a very real desire, a companionship. She's wanting her companion. She has a really genuine desire. And so I kind of broke it out into 2 questions, real simple. It says, how can we be genuine in our relationship with our spouse without zoning out?
Wow.
So how can we do that? And so I wrote down like active listening, praying for them, giving them praise. So take that same question. It's just, how can you be genuine in your relationship with God and not zone out? It's the same thing. It's the same answers. It's actively listen to God, right?
Yeah.
It's instead of praying for him, you're praying to him, right? And then give him praise.
Wow.
And another thing I thought is which Kim mentioned it earlier, but it was like, just stop what you're doing and pay attention. You know, that's kind of where I took that. And then verse 9, what do you got on verse 9?
Okay. This is when the friends are asking, how is your beloved better than others? Most beautiful women, how is your beloved better than others that you charge us so? So, you know, they're like, why? What does he have? Why do you want us to go search for him or help you? And, you know, this reminded me when I was reading, you know, why is Mark better? You know, why is your spouse better than anyone else? And it just reminded me to be thanking God for him. You know, God made Mark for me. You know, he didn't make Mark for anybody else. He didn't make anybody else for me. And that I should be willing and ready to tell whoever about Mark. And that he's no better. And to remember that, because the world is attacking our relationships all the time. So it just reminded me to say thank you.
For me, it kind of goes back to one of the questions, and you answered it, and you said it was physical early on when you first saw her. It's like, what attracted you? What to your wife? And so early on, it's physical, right? But then as we get older, life tends to
That's right.
things start happening. You know, it takes a toll on you. We're not quite as physically fit as we were. We have gray hair and beards, or if we're losing hair, and so what keeps a marriage from failing? So my question is, what keeps a marriage from failing when you're not as attractive as you used to be?
Yeah.
Well, that's a worldly question. That's the wrong question, right? If you think about it, you said it earlier when I said, well, when you look at your wife now, what makes you smile? Makes you smile, and you both and I wrote down, a beautiful woman is godly, honest, dignity, trustworthy, loyal, and provides for her family. And the same answer, what makes a beautiful man? It's the exact same answer.
That's right.
Right? So if you think, man, I'm just not as good looking as I was when I was 21. Well, no.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter
That's right.
now, not anymore. It's what matters is, to me, for her, it is if Kim was not the mother that she is, and she was not a godly woman, or I wasn't, then we might see each other differently.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah.
I
So,
agree with that.
and then moving on to the last section is 10 through 16, and we won't read all of that. It's
Yeah.
You want to tell them what?
Well, after reading all that, that just reminded me also that, I should be Mark's biggest cheerleader and be the one,
I agree. That's
you know,
what it says.
yeah, I mean, in front of our kids, in front of now our grandbaby, in front of my family and my friends, I should be building him up, and then there at the end in 16 it says, "This is my lover, this is my friend," and we kind of touched on this earlier, but our friendship. I mean, Mark is my best friend, and above all, I know he's always going to be there for me and support me and take care of me, and I just thank God for that. And as spouses, we should be our spouse's best cheerleader.
I agree. That's good. Yeah, these whole verses are almost like they've healed whatever it was, and now all she's doing is describing the man of her dreams.
All right.
And we may look in the mirror and say, "What?" But our wives think that, and we think that about our wives. So it's the expressions.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, I think Solomon, if he heard this, would love it. And if he were to say it, she would love it.
Yes.
And I think you hit it, the end. My beloved, my friend. That's bam. That's it.
Yeah, to me that's key. The word friend in there, because there's more to a successful marriage than sexual intimacy.
That's right.
Because sooner or later you're gonna have to turn the TV on and watch a ball game.
That's right.
Right? Because you're not
That's right.
Superman. And so I think friendship and partnership and companion are just as equally as important.
Yeah.
And so with that, I'm gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
I had 3 questions that came to mind. And these can be rhetorical, or you can ask them to your class if they feel like doing it. But is your spouse your best friend?
Good
That's a
question.
fair question. Another one is, do you keep secrets from your spouse? Do you keep a little hidden money account for fund money that's separate? I think it's huge. I mean, I can't keep a secret from her.
That's right. We
It's
don't
just
do that.
not possible. I can't do it. And then, can you tell your wife anything? I can. She knows I can. She's heard some really weird stuff. And so, our marriage is not perfect, just like your marriage is not
Right.
perfect. We've come a long way, and we've learned a lot through life lessons and
Yeah.
studying God's Word. But there's a lot of people. I'm certain there's a lot of people in our church today that are having some level of struggle in their marriage. And so my question is this: what is the best way today? It's like starting today to begin restoring your relationship
That's
with
good.
your spouse. What needs to happen today? What do you need to do? Right? I know you do marriage counseling, and I know you do pre-marriage counseling.
Right.
Give me your top 3 things that.
Can I give a suggestion?
Yeah.
You do it.
Okay. I know when Mark had mentioned earlier, we got married. We were babies when we got married.
We were.
We were babies. So the first few years of our marriage were pretty rocky. you know, and so we went to a marriage conference together. You know, it's hard to get away now with all the COVID stuff and everything, but those resources are still out there. You
right.
know, you can reach out to like counseling and, but there's lots of books out there. We read a book together. You know,
Well, that was huge.
That was really huge for our intimacy, and raising your kids together, agree on things. You know,
Never
like
let
he
them
said,
see you argue.
yeah, you know, and
Yeah.
sometimes that has come back because our kids, you have to let them know you do mess up.
Right.
You know, so that they know mom and dad aren't perfect. But anyway, but just you know, marriage, those conferences that if you can attend them, counseling, reading books together, and doing study together, going to church together, and praying for your spouse. I pray for Mark every day and thank God for him every day.
That's great.
And I think we, you know, as wives, we should be praying for our husbands.
One of the things, Mark, that I try to help couples is they should have, in fact, I'll say it from the pulpit, you've probably heard me, that every family unit should, and from mom and dad, should have at least 3 or 4 or 5 non-negotiables. That you might cut a little slack here, slack there, but these 5 things, if it's 5, kids, this is non-negotiable, and they see it modeled in your life, and I think that's really key. I think also, and you touched on it, you know, as you get older, things change, and it's in a sense what you're doing. You're dancing new dances, and when Jeff and them left, and it came back to where we started, just me and Paula, we kind of struggled a little bit through all that. And I just remember telling her one day, I said, you know, Paula, we've never danced this kind of dance before. And I said, I don't know how to dance this. All the thing I know what to do is dance and step on each other's toes as we try to learn the dance. And, you know, we're still dancing. I'm still stepping on toes, but we're still dancing.
Right.
And I
Right,
just, I
right.
think that's probably some of the flexibility that comes in the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, y'all both. I wrote down 5 things, and then we can wrap this up. Is pray for them.
Right.
You can't be mad at somebody if you're praying for them.
That's
If you're
exactly
genuinely praying for somebody, you can't be mad at them. It's just not possible. And then encourage them.
Right.
Words of affirmation.
Affirmation.
And just do something for them. And then let's let them know how much they mean to you. You know, even if you're not in the wrong in the problem, if you continue to do these things, that wrong will work itself out.
Right.
So that's my thought on that. I just think Satan's attacking the church through marriage, and I think that we need to do more. I don't know what that is. I know a long time ago when we were young, they would somehow, I don't know how it happened, but they would partner up like older women with younger women. You know,
Good idea.
for just
Mentoring.
mentor type thing, and men with men.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that.
Okay. Well, listen, life group leaders, have fun with the text. One of the things that, as they were talking, this couple talking, hit me is, you know, at the end of the day, Mark's not going to change Kim, and Kim's not going to change Mark. They're just going to accept each other and love each other. And I think that's a real key. And so I hope you have a good study, and I hope you enjoy teaching the lesson.